everybody. Happy Thursday. So excited to be here with Eryn Scott. Eryn, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so excited to have you here. Tell us about all of your series.
So I'm Eryn, and I have quite a few series. So I'll do like a quick blurb on each of them. So I'll go from order of like when I wrote them. One of my first cozy series is the Stoneybrook Mysteries, and this is I know you've read one of these, and so this takes place in like a Pacific Northwest mountain valley town that has a year-long farmer's market, and the main character, Hadley, she makes jam and sells it at the farmer's market. Her jam shop is called Pretty Jam Good. And so her twin brother is the deputy sheriff in town, and so she kind of helps him with the mysteries that he has to solve. Then I have, this one's a paranormal, but I call it like a light paranormal because a lot of people tell me like they don't usually read paranormal cozies or they don't usually like ghost stories, but that this is pretty light. So this is my first ghost series, and it's Pebble Cove, and it takes place in like a little town on the Oregon coast. And so lots of like beach coast vibes. And it's like a haunted tea house, a Victorian tea house she inherits from her grandmother. So and this series is complete at 8 books. And then I have a little spin-off series of 3 novellas, but that one's all complete. And then I have Whiskers and Words, which is about a woman who moves across the country after losing her husband, and she opens up a bookstore and slowly becomes kind of like a rescue cat sanctuary as well as a bookstore. So, you know, like those cat cafes where like you can go and drink coffee and adopt a cat if you want. It's kind of the same thing at Whiskers and Words. So you can go and read books, and all the cats there are adoptable. And so so Lou owns this shop, and actually the one cat that's not adoptable, my sides are, is her cat is Sapphire, the white one. So you'll see him on every cover. My artist for this series is German, and I'm getting these translated into German, so it's kind of fun.
Oh, that's so cool.
She makes sure, and she puts Sapphire on all of the covers. So that's Whiskers and Words. That's an ongoing series. And then my newest series, this is my latest release. Actually, the book 5 comes out tomorrow. So this is book 4. And this is the Murder at the Morrissey series. And it is kind of like Only Murders in the Building, but with ghosts and no podcast. So that's my latest ongoing series. But there's a lot of them.
There is. That's so cool. Yeah. So the Whiskers and Words, I think those covers are absolutely adorable. Your cover artist is amazing for that.
She's awesome. I love her. She makes something every time she sends me a cover. I'm like, I don't know how you did it, but it's cuter than the last one. Like, I love them
all. So I've read, I think, the first 3 in the Stoneybrook. I love that the love interest can't be the cop.
Yes.
Because, you know, we get that a lot. So when it was the twin brother, I'm like, yes, but I really like their dynamic. And I like the best friend that, you know, is also involved in that series. Yes, it's just such a fun, cozy. I am always looking for jam series. So when I saw the farmer's market jam, I was like, I got to read this author. So
and I have recipes in that one, but I was really worried about like giving people, like making people sick if I wrote a recipe. So I actually paired with for the first I think like 8 or 9 books in that series, it's this gal Marissa McClellan, and she has a blog called Food in Jars, and she has a couple cookbooks as well. And so most of the recipes from those books are from her, but then she has twins, and so she's very busy. And so the last few have been Shay Irving, who's also an awesome jam maker. I get the recipes from her, so they're safe.
That's smart. that's
I was like, I like to eat jam, but I don't think I've ever like made it on my own, and so I don't want to set anyone on the wrong path there.
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Yeah.
I've been like doing different things and making the joke to my husband, I'm a homesteader, because I made like last week homemade Cheez-Its. I'm like, look, I'm my very own homesteader, and I made cough syrup. I was like, he's like, is that safe? And I was like, no,
just don't give it to anyone else.
I'm gonna hop in the comments because there are a lot of people I want to say hello. Hi, Cynthia.
Cynthia Ashland.
Yes. I hope you are well. Cynthia was at Ashland. I'm sorry, my computer was bobbing up and down because I was getting too excited. There we go. Hey, Cajun. She says, hi, everyone. I really loved Body in 3B.
Oh, yay. I'm glad.
That you should take that as a very big compliment, because Cajun is like a cozy mystery expert. I really mean that. Hey, Regina. She says, hi, everyone. Hi, bestie. Sonia, she says, hello, bestie. Hello, Eryn. A lot of these people have fantastic channels. Sonia, Regina has a great Instagram. You guys check them. Make sure you check them out. Cynthia said, whiskers and words. Let's go, Lou and Willow. They are my faves, or my loves. I'm sorry. Very cool, Cynthia. Eep, love the Whiskers and Words series. I just started in on Murder in the Morrissey series, read 2 books in it so far. Very cool. I was telling Eryn I started Body in 3B today, and it was so much fun. I just started listening to it. I'm not very far into it, but I realized I did know that there was a ghost, but I didn't know it until like last week. And so I think that I had started listening to it, not remembering. And then when she said, I was like, oh,
it's a little bit of a surprise.
I think it's really cool. I'm really excited because I'm not very far. Like I said, maybe 2 chapters, but I'm really excited to see how I love when places that are not small towns do cozies, and to see how that, like, it's going to, I feel like it should feel like the building is its own like location and
yes, I hope it does. I really, every time I write a Morrissey book, I feel like at home as well. Like I just love all the people there, and yeah, it's quite fun to revisit them.
That's so cool. So since you said that, I have to ask, did you live in a building like that?
No, so I do live across the water from Seattle, so we go over there quite a bit. And Pioneer Square, which is where the Morrissey, obviously Seattle's real, but the Morrissey building isn't. But where I picture it, there's this one building in Pioneer Square that's always like something new. Like it was Utilikilts for a while. It was this really cute dress shop for a while, but it's like always something different. Mm-hmm. And in that exact spot is where I picture the Morrissey. And so like, that's where like how many floors it is and everything came from in my mind. But I actually have been wanting to write a cozy series in an apartment complex. Ooh. I don't know if you know it's like a French movie called Amélie.
No.
From like the 90s. And I love that movie. And in the movie, she's part of this little apartment building complex, and she kind of like meddles in other people's lives.
I love it.
So she knows all of her neighbors really well and meddles in their lives. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would be so fun to have a cozy series like this. But I wasn't sure if it could be done or if it would be marketable, because like you said, it's usually cozies are in a small town or something, not in a big city, in an apartment building. So I've had the like idea on my little idea board in my office for years. And then Only Murders in the Building came out, and it was so popular. And I was like, I think I can do this. Yeah. And so that was really kind of what spurred me on to just like start the series that I'd been like holding off on for a while. And so, yeah, it's kind of like Amélie, Only Murders in the Building plus ghosts.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Callahan says, researching all of these books now. Awesome. Yay. I didn't realize there were so many more Whiskers and Words books. I read them on Audible, and there's only 3 there, so I thought it was done. Will the rest come out in audio too?
Yes, Jennifer's working on them. We hit a little bit of a snag with her scheduling, and so there was a pause for a while, but she's working on them, and they're gonna be out. Hopefully, a bunch of them this year. So,
oh, that's cool. How many are in that series?
So I'm just finishing the 11th.
Wow.
Yes, 11.
Wow. So you had mentioned, we were kind of chatting early on, and you were a teacher at one point, but you were also writing. How did that come about? And then are you fully independently published? Do you have a publisher? And how does all of your writing process work like that?
Yeah. So I started teaching right out of college and loved it. I mean, I loved teaching so much. But even like in college, you know, when we're prepping to be teachers, they have us take children's literature courses. So you're just reading a ton of like middle grade fiction, YA fiction. And I loved it. And I was just like so inspired by all the things I was reading. I was like, I want to, that great feeling, like it's like a book hangover, like when you like just like finish a book and you just like, I want to live there forever. That's what's writing is like for me, because it's like reading, only I get to like spend even more time with my characters. And so I started writing just because I love reading, and I had been doing so much of it. I was like getting all these ideas. So I started writing middle grade fiction and YA. And then so I've been writing as long as I was teaching, kind of on the side. And then I started reading, kind of my taste changed. You know how, you go through phases and stuff. And so I started going into more like women's fiction and romantic comedies. And so I wrote some of those. And I was never like, it was either too little romance or too much women's fiction part. I was never hitting the market right. And so I had a friend that was like, you should try cozy mysteries, because it would probably fit really well with your writing style. And that was just like clicked for me. It was just my happy place. And
oh, awesome.
And so, I've been writing cozies ever since. And I'm fully self-published. I did the whole querying process at the very beginning of my, with my YA stuff. But then quickly my like writing group, this was like, we've been publishing for 10 years now. So they started to kind of get traction in self-publishing. And so I started doing that as well. And 3 years ago, I got to the point where, I had some like health issues and stuff as well that made teaching kind of difficult. Even though I loved it still, it was like, okay, this may not be the best for my health right now. And so because I had the book business on the side, I was able to kind of just jump fully into that. And so I've been doing it full time now for 3 years.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like the self-publishing allows so much more control than what I hear in a lot of the traditionally published world. And I'm sure that there's pros and cons to both. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it would be, it's nice to have that complete control over the creativity process, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I feel very strongly about like my covers. I have like a lot of thoughts about my covers as my cover artist, like that. But like, so being able to like know what I have a picture in my mind of what I want it to be, and I can talk to them about that. And then I love having my own business too, because like I feel like they're part of my business, and that I can I'm supporting other people with my small business. And like Franzi, who does my Whiskers and Words covers, she's a mom, and and so it's like, oh, she's like part of this this cool, awesome business that we get to run together, and so it just feels really good. But I also am a control freak. And so it is also nice having all of the control. Now, if a publisher came to me and was like, we want to buy your books, I might be tempted, but for now it's working this way. So
that's right. So when you write, do you write on a schedule? Do you try to do so many words a day? And the big question.
Yeah.
Are you a plotter, a pantser, or a term I'm still trying to coin or patent, saggy pantser?
Well, okay, so being a teacher, we have to do a year plan. We have to do weekly lesson plans. Mm-hmm. So I am totally a planner. So I have like my whole year planned out, and then I break it into quarters.
Wow.
And then I break that into what I need to do each week. And so, yes, I'm very regimented. Also, I feel like having been writing while I was a teacher full time, now that I'm doing writing full time, I'm like, I have all this time. So I just, work 8 to 5 usually, and try and get my words in each day. But yeah, I know which books I need to work on when, based on my release schedule. And then I am a complete outliner. And I didn't used to be. I used to be more of maybe a saggy pantser. Like I knew like where it was starting and where it was ending. But then my friend, Christy, actually got me hooked on outlining, because it's just like, I would usually come up with the same thing by the end of the book, but I'd have like bird walked so much that I'd have to cut like half the book in editing. So I love outlining because it makes my editing process a lot easier. Gotcha. And it just makes me more confident going into the book. So yeah, I extensively outline, and I actually have a developmental editor that looks through my outlines for me before I even start. So she's kind of like finds some of the weak parts before I even start writing. And so then we fix those before I start my first draft. And yeah, I try and get like a chapter or two a day, usually depending on how, easily it's flowing that day. But yeah.
Wow. So your schedule, do you make up your schedule as far as like releases and all of that? Do you determine that yourself?
Yeah. Every once in a while it will be affected by like a narrator or, my editors, if like they need to push it a week, or like this isn't a good month for my narrator, I'll make changes that way. But usually it's kind of like I just set it when I think I can get it done, and then I put it up for pre-order. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's the process. There's so much more to the process than what you think when you don't know it. Because I was like, oh, you write a book and you pass it along. That's just, I don't know, in my head, like I didn't have any clue. I mean, I would have no reason to, but the more I learn, I'm like, wow, there's so much to the entire process from start to finish.
Yeah. And I think it is probably daunting. Like I really truly believe that I wouldn't be here without my writers group. We kind of like, we're all jumping in at the same time. One of us self-published first, and then he was like, this is working. And so then we were all like, okay. But we kind of were really like growing together and learning things together. And I think that really helped, because I often really need someone to like hold my hand through things. And so having that group with me while I was growing as not just a writer, but as like in the business of self-publishing and learning the business side of it. But I love it. I really wouldn't have done it any other way, because I feel like I do know so much more about the business, because I had to learn.
Yeah. You mentioned that, you were reading a lot of, well, I know you said middle grade and YA, but in general, what kind of books do you like to read? Do you read cozy mysteries?
I love cozy mysteries. Yes. They're kind of like my, I read a lot when I was starting in the genre, because I wanted to like, what are reader expectations? I want to make sure that I'm achieving those. But I obviously have some favorite authors that I continue to go back to. And the cozies are kind of my, if I'm not sure what to read, I just pick up a cozy, because I know I'm going to be happy,
Yeah.
So I love cozies, but sometimes now that I'm writing them full time, sometimes I don't want to be like necessarily influenced by other writers in the genre, and so I don't read as extensively in cozies as I used to, but I do read a lot. I'm really into romantasy right now. So I'm reading a lot of romance fantasy. I read a lot of fan fiction too. So yeah. It's
very
fun.
cool. Yeah, that's neat. So I always ask people these next couple of questions because I think it's important. I'm doing this to help you.
Yes.
Okay. If Hallmark called and was like, "Hey, Eryn, we want to make Stony Brook into a movie, Murders in the, Morrissey, whichever, into a Hallmark series, who would you want to play your main characters?" I'm sure that's the first question they would ask. I mean, I just know it.
Right. Yeah. They definitely want to know what I think about it. Yeah. I know I have a hard time thinking about, I do have, so if you go to my website, I have this fun little page for each one of my series where you can see like real life locations that have inspired my fake locations. And I do have how I pictured the characters, and then any character art I've commissioned from artists, and then like the maps for all the books.
Oh, that's cool. I love
so you can kind of see like who I've pictured, but like most of the time I don't usually use like actors, just because I feel like sometimes I don't want to like assign them to these people. But the Morrissey, I definitely Lori is definitely based on a character from, I don't know, it was like an HBO show called Insecure. I don't know if you've ever seen it. But the main character's boyfriend on the show is named Lawrence, and it's played by Jay Ellis, and I love him in that show. And so I was like, okay, well, Lawrence is Lawrence in my book, and so I would want Jay Ellis to play Lori. Not that he's super big, and he's probably not gonna do Hallmark shows, but I don't know. As for like Meg, the main character, I was trying to think of like, she's just like an artsy, 20-something, kind of shy, but like not with the people who she loves and like who know her well. And I was thinking that gal from, there was a movie a couple years ago called Booksmart, where they're kind of like bookish girls and they're graduating from high school, and they realize that like they've been working hard the whole time, but to get into a really good college, but all the partiers also got into good colleges. And I think I wrote down her name. Caitlin Dever is one of the people in the actors in the movie. And so I thought that could be Meg. Meg has a friend in book 2 that shows up, Zoe. And I totally picture Aubrey Plaza for her. So I'm getting really big name actors here.
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot for the stars, I say.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it'd be fun to see what they would cast, but that's my fan cast. So
that's
as
so
for my other series, I don't know. I have too many series. I don't know if I can think of those.
Yeah, you have a big writing schedule. How many books? So one of the series is wrapped up. You said like the T series is finished.
Yeah, I actually also, my first series, it's a little less popular because it's a little bit of a younger character, but I love her. It was my first cozy series. It's literature based. So she's an English major. And so every one of the mysteries has to do with a different classic author.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So the first one is like all Shakespeare. Then the second book is Hemingway. And then the third book is Austen. So it goes through, each mystery is very rooted in that classic author's work. And so that one's also completed at 6 books. But I love that series. It has some really intense fans, but it's a small group. So So that's his completed series. And then my Pebble Cove is my other completed series. And then I'm actually thinking of wrapping up Stoneybrook as well. I know. But I'll be at 15. It'll be 15. So that I feel like that's a pretty good number. And that one is less so with Pebble Cove, the overarching ghost story. There's an overarching mystery as well in the whole, like, of where the ghost,
Gotcha.
how he died. And that wrapped up in the 8 books. And so it felt very much complete. And so with Stoneybrook, I feel like I'm going to kind of cap it at 15, but it also, that's less of a, like, it has an exact end date. I could open it up again if I needed to, but.
Gotcha. Yeah. So are, as of now, the ones that are going, do you write 3 in a year? So do you write 1 from Morrissey, 1 from Stoneybrook, and 1 from Whiskers and Words every year?
No, I write more than that.
I was going to say,
I know. Yeah. I just write a lot, but like I said, I was used to writing and teaching. So now that I'm just writing, I feel like I have a lot of ideas.
That's incredible.
I do like to bounce around because I get bored and I don't ever want to dislike my characters. Like, I've heard other, not even in our genre, but just like other authors who write in long series and they're just like, oh, I have to write another one of these books. And I'm like, I never wanted to feel like that about mine. So from the start, I had multiple series going, and probably not the smartest thing to do money-wise. Like, I probably should have just kept on with one, but it was really something I deliberately did in my planning so that I wouldn't ever feel stale in one series. So I do bounce around a lot. I might write 1 or 2, like 2 back to back if like the schedule, or if like I'm just really feeling like staying in that world. But I do like to pop around. I usually, I think it's like 6 to 8 is what I write a year.
Wow. Do you have different like vibes when you are writing the different series? Like, when I do Stoneybrook, I'm listening to classical, but when I do Morrissey, I'm listening to alternative rock. I don't know. I'm making something up.
No, totally. And actually on my little series info pages on my website, if you go to those, I've linked to all my Spotify playlists for each series. So cool. And so like I have a different playlist for each series that helps me just like get in that world. And so, yeah, Stoneybrook is kind of like folksy. Morrissey is grunge. It's like 90s Seattle grunge.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense.
But it just like kind of gets me back into that world of having the different, vibes. But
that is really neat. Wow, 6 to 8 books in a year.
I know.
So from this time you start writing to when you, not to the editing process, but just from like pen, well, I'm sure you don't write in pen. I don't know why it's typing. From the time that you type the first word to type the last word. And I know it's not going to be the same every time, but like in general, like, is that 3 months? Is that 6 weeks?
I would say 3 months is a pretty good from like start to finish. But some of the process, I can work on 2 different things at once. So sometimes like I'm finishing up edits for Whiskers and Words, but I'm also outlining the next Stoneybrook. Like, so I can do those 2 things at once. And then my drafting process, because I outline so intensely, like my outline, each chapter is really a big, like I know all the things that are going to happen.
Wow, per chapter.
And what happens for me when I'm sitting down to write is like, I just see, I don't know if you get this when you're reading, but like, I just see it playing out in my head like a movie. Yeah. And I just really just write what's happening. Like what I'm seeing and playing out in my head is just what I'm typing down. So I usually do write like pretty quickly the first draft. I'd say probably about a month is my first draft. Whew. And then as long as my developmental editor doesn't find any like huge issues that I need to change, which helps with the outlining because usually we kind of work out those kinks before. then it's just a process of like line by line, you know, making sure the wording's correct and that my descriptions are, you know, deep enough and that the characters are all acting how they're supposed to. And so, my drafting process is probably about a month. And then going through all of the editors and proofreaders and all that, that's another month, just getting everyone the manuscript at the different times. But I usually do start outlining a little bit before. So 2.5, 3 months is usually start to finish.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
I also do I have to say, like, my editors, I know sometimes editing takes much longer. You know, that process takes longer, but I have really quick editors. And so that, you know, month for me is sometimes like 2 or 3 months for other people. So I think that helps me, you know, move on to the next one. And then once a book's done, I have a really hard time just sitting on it. So I usually just like, once it's ready, it gets out there.
So when you wrap up Stoneybrook, which I hope you don't, but that's pure selfishness.
I know.
Are you going to start a new series? Are you already thinking of that? And I'm just I'm wishing this into the world. Okay. So just hear me out. An amusement park cozy or a traveling carnival. There would be so many ways, because the traveling carnival then would never get stuck in like a Cabot Cove, you know, murder, you know, and there's so many different things that you could do.
Where you're like, how are these people still living here when there's been 20 murders in the last?
Yeah. If it was a traveling carnival.
Yeah.
Or
no, so I do have Whiskers and Words. There's a free novella. So it's just 20,000. So it's like a half 25,000. It's half as long as my normal books. And that one's free on my website. And that is a traveling carnival. It's called, actually, this is the, I don't know if you can see it. This is the art for it, the cover. Something whiskered this way comes. Because, you know, something wicked this way comes is a traveling carnival. And so I wanted to kind of play off of that. But I am starting a new series this year, which I'm really excited about. It's actually like I said, my series, like ideas, I keep them for a really long time to make sure that I still like them like 2 years later. I kind of just like add little bits and pieces to like who the characters are and build it up over 2 years. And as long as I still like it 2 years later, then I'm like, okay, I could write this. So my next one I've been planning for quite a while, and I'm so excited about it. So I'm like a scaredy cat. I don't really like scary movies or anything like that, but I kind of like creepy movies. Like I like to feel a little bit scared, but not grossed out or like terrified. And so I appreciate like when movies are like more psychologically creepy and not so like they're going to give me nightmares. And so I was like, I feel like I really want to write a series like that. And so my next series is going to be a little darker, but not like scarier. It's just going to be like more eerie feeling. Like Button is the name of the town in Whiskers and Words. Like it's cute as a button. Like it's so cute. Everything is cute about this town. It's sewing themed. Like the streets are named Thimble, and you know, it's adorable. And the town next door is called Brine. And if you've read the Whiskers and Words series, like they kind of make fun of Brine a lot. They're like, you know, we're cute as a button and they're salty as brine. Like they have like a pickle festival. It's not cute. And so Button Nights kind of make fun of the people who live in Brine. And so I'm setting my next series in Brine.
That is great.
It's going to be a gal who is kind of like, her family's kind of like the outcasts of the town. Like everyone thinks that they do everything wrong. So it's going to be it's going to be like small town feels still, but a little bit kind of on its head from what I've done in my other series that are just very cute and accepting. So she's going to kind of have to find her own people within the town who support her, and she's going to be running her own little investigating firm. So the new series is called Black Cat Investigations because she's kind of a black cat. I don't know if you've heard that term before, like when someone's like kind of quiet and scary, like people are a little bit scared of them. They're like a black cat. So people call her a black cat, but she also has a black cat. So it's going to be Black Cat Investigations. And it's going to be a little bit like darker, eerier, but not nightmare worthy, not scary, not.
I picture the Munsters, not gonna
lie. Yeah, like or like a Scooby-Doo kind of a feel, but without no gore or anything like that. But I just wanted to do something a little different, a little edgier, a little bit less cutesy,
I do think it's funny that you're writing it in the next town over.
Yeah.
In Bryan. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So everything in their town is like pickle themed, and they have a pickle festival where they pickle things they really shouldn't.
That's amazing. I approve of pickling anything besides eggs.
Yes. And the main character, she works at the pickle museum in town. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. I actually have been sitting on the covers for that series. The artist who made them for me made them last summer. So I've been sitting on them for a really long time. So I'm excited to start dropping that information with my newsletter and showing them little bits of it. But
oh, that's so fun. And so have you started writing for it?
Only in the sense that like I can't help myself. So I sometimes will like get a scene in my head and write that down. Or mostly what I'm doing now is just like building up the outlines, both the series, like what I want to happen in each, in each book, but also just like scenes from the first book. Cause I have the first book like loosely outlined in my mind. So just things like that. But I try to, it's kind of like a treat when I get to write it. So I try to stick with the book I'm writing right now and not do too many, going off and, writing on the other one. Cause then I get distracted. So.
That is so fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first book has to take place during the pickle festival, I feel like.
Well, so it's actually going to be, I'm thinking of releasing, writing and getting all 3 of them done so that you get all 3 within like a couple months.
Wow.
And I am thinking of, I feel like Halloweenish time is going to be a really good time for those. I actually had them on my schedule earlier for this year. And it just didn't seem right to release it during the summer when it's all like bright and sunny out.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking I'm going to get them at least the first 2 out kind of Halloween time. So, but yeah, then the pickle festival happens each summer. So one of them will take place in the summer.
Amazing. That is awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
In my head, something just popped in about a title about dill or kill or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I went back and forth on the titles with that one a lot because I did kind of think about going pickle themed. But the titles for that one are all, I guess I could give you a little exclusive because I haven't released the titles yet, but I do have them all done. They're kind of like plays on scary phrases. So the first one's screamish, like instead of squeamish, it's screamish. And the second one is going to be called Handle with Scare. And the third one is Creep It Real. Like, so they're just kind of like creepy phrases, but like a little bit punny.
Okay, that is awesome.
I know. I had to get some like punny names in there.
Yeah, oh, of course. You got to keep it. Yeah.
The one thing I'm finding with like foreign translations now, I'm like, because this series is going into German, and my translator is like, what do you want me to do with these titles? And I was like, oh, wow. Because like some of them don't translate, like the puns don't translate as well in other languages. So we're maybe going to have to do some slightly different titles for those, but that's okay.
Well, I'm sad for them because the puns are some of the best part.
Yeah, some cozy writers said that they just keep if they have a very punny title, sometimes they just keep it English, even though the inside, text is French or German, because, a lot of them speak 2 or 3 languages, so they're fine.
Yeah.
But I also
that it's going to be translated.
Yeah, the Whiskers and Words, like each one of her foster cats, she gives them like a literary name, like Anne Mice and
my husband loves Anne Rice. That's so funny.
Pert Vonnegut and Catnip and Everdeen and so they all have Jules Pern was one of them. Yeah. So those are like, she's like, I was like, just leave the names as they are. So.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. That's so funny. So I also always ask this question because, it's just, I need to know if something happened to you and you were, nefariously something happened to you, knock on wood, not that doesn't, who would you want to solve your crime or bring justice to you from a fictional world, TV, a book, movie, wherever?
Oh, like not even just my books.
No, I mean, it can be, but just who would you want to solve?
I did think about my books because I was
I do want to know now who from you and then the other one.
Because in honor of the Morrissey book 5 releasing tomorrow is the detective in that series, Detective Amaya Anthony. She is just like very straight-laced, very serious, which is very funny because Meg is, talks to ghosts and, Detective Anthony doesn't know that, but Meg's kind of always getting herself into these investigations. And I would say I want Detective Anthony on the case, but also if like Meg is like helping in the background with her ghostly friends. So, because I feel like ghosts are really helpful in
how could they not be? Like,
yeah. So I'd want all of that behind the investigation. I think it'd be solved like real quick.
Do you feel like you yourself would make a good sleuth?
Oh, I do think sometimes, I don't know if you ever do this, like just in the last like internet age, in the last 10 years where you're like, who is this person? And you do a little research and then you just like, I've done that a couple times where I feel like really good about myself because like I learned some, like made a connection between 2 people or, oh, that's this person. So I think I do okay, but I do think that having a ghost would definitely help.
It can only enhance.
Yeah.
I feel like I always thought that I would be really good, but like I never ever figure out the killers in these books. Like it could have a neon sign flashing and I'm like, oh, I'm over here, so my new strategy, it's not new anymore, but my strategy now is I just suspect everybody, no matter what. Like until you can prove to me that you were not there.
Yeah.
This
guy who bought a sandwich in chapter 2, he might be it. Yeah.
Yeah. You never know, I mean, but I always thought I'd be really good. But the other thing is like, I'm too much of a scaredy cat, like we mentioned earlier. So as soon as things got hot, I'd be under the table. I'm like Scooby-Doo, like,
that is true. Yeah. I think of all my sleuths, I feel like Hadley gets in the most from Stoneybrook. She gets in the worst situations. And usually like they're very dangerous. And so I feel like maybe I wouldn't be at Hadley level, but I probably like Meg or Lou, they don't get themselves in too bad of scrapes. So I could handle that. But yeah, I think you're right. I would be good at the clues part, but not the putting myself in danger.
Yeah. So I asked you earlier about some of your writing process, but I do want to know too. You can just like wink. Like you don't have to tell us.
Okay.
Are any of your characters based upon real people or your victims based upon real people? That
Oh, yeah.
No. You can just
Okay.
nod.
Yeah. No, I feel like yes, but I feel like in a way you wouldn't think. They're not like this character is this person. It's like this character is 20 different things from people I love. Like this character is a bunch of things from people I don't like, So it's kind of like I do use characteristics from people in my life, but like more just like pieces of a different character. So I kind of Frankenstein them into a new person. But except my writer, some of my like cozy friends and I, we had for a while we were doing writing sprints every morning together. So we would kind of just be on Zoom and writing, and then we'd chat for 5 minutes in between sprints. And I was telling them we had our dishwasher broke a couple years ago, right by Thanksgiving. So it was like great timing, right?
Right.
And I went through the biggest headache trying to get. That day that it broke, I went down, bought a new one, and they're like, it'll be delivered at this time. And I'm like, great, this is done. I'm moved this off my list. No, because the things happened with the paperwork. I think he wrote my number wrong. So it took us like 3 weeks to even get the guy to come with so without a dishwasher, which, when we first got married, we didn't have a dishwasher, but, for the last 15 years we have, and I got spoiled.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, especially around the holidays.
That would be hard though, around Thanksgiving and Christmas. And
yes. And so by the time the delivery guy finally shows up, because he keeps like rescheduling, and I'm like, this guy really needs to just deliver this and install it. He gets to my house and he's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. You bought too tall of a dishwasher or something. And I'm like, I don't know that that's a thing, but okay. So then I go buy a different one. Like return that one, go buy a different one. Like it's this whole process, and then the guy still won't deliver it. So this guy's name was Chuck, and every morning, because this went on for like a month, right? Every morning on sprints, I would be like, my friends would say, Eryn, what's the drama with Chuck? Have you gotten him to install your dishwasher yet? And I'd be like, no. And here's the latest thing he did that's frustrating. So I do have a person dying in a book named Chuck because of that.
That is hilarious.
Like they're like, you gotta be a victim. I was like, yes, I am. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what happened with the comments, but there's some other people that comment and I didn't even see them. So Cajun said, oh, thank you. I love you, Cajun. Melissa said, hi, everyone. Hey, Melissa. I love the big city setting with the cozy elements coming in through the apartment building or residence. Yeah, I think that's so interesting. You said you read some cozies. I don't know if you read them, but like I like the ones that are able to be in big cities, but feel like they're in its own location, like the building, like the coffee. I always think of the coffee shop by Cleo Coyle.
Cleo Coyle, I love those. Yeah,
because I feel like that coffee shop is its own like location, and I mean like city, not city, but small town. I don't know. It just works, and so I'm really excited when I think that's a great Cav. I agree, 100%.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Susan said, love the banter between Megs and her best friend in Naughty and 3B.
Yeah, I love them. I grew up watching the show Gilmore Girls, and so I loved the relationship between Lorelai and Rory, which they're like mom and daughter, but because like Ripley, the ghost, has been around since Meg was little, so she's kind of like a big sister mother figure to her, but also like a best friend. So I really tried to like capture that in their relationship. But
that's so cool. I love Gilmore Girls, so that's awesome. Cynthia said, I'll be supporting silently on my drive home, but I'm here in spirit. Thank you so much, Cynthia. That's amazing. Esther Jane said, I love hearing new authors from me and new series. Excellent.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, a Brian series. I'm screaming.
I know. I knew my button people would like that. Brian is just a reoccurring joke in all of those.
It reminds me of I don't know if you watched, so like randomly during COVID, we were like trying to find things to watch. And we started watching, it's a Canadian show called Corner Gas. I don't know if you've ever
seen I've seen that. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, whenever they mention the town next to them, they don't like that town and they say the name and then they spit.
Yeah.
like
very much same vibes. Yeah.
That's what immediately when you start talking about it, like that's what I thought of. That show is hilarious, by the way. If anybody has watched it, it's just it's like the humor in it is, I think it's hysterical.
Yeah.
I do have issues figuring out the victim occasion. Thank you for pointing that out. No, I'm kidding.
Well, to be fair, like we try and write them so that you don't figure it out. So
I never ever figure out. It was funny because one time they make fun. We have a group that does lives, and we've all gotten pretty close because we're with each other a lot. And I was saying I read the Mimi Granger's book called Death of a Red Hot Rancher. Mm-hmm. And so our main character goes on a date with this rancher. And I was like, I thought he was going to be the love interest and they killed him. And my co-host was like, it's called Death of a Red Hot Rancher.
There were clues.
Fair. Touche.
My favorite thing is there was this one series that I picked up thinking it was a cozy. It was called like Sweet Teens Sympathy was the first book. It was a very cute book. I loved it. But it was just a romance. And I was like halfway through still waiting for someone to die. And then I was like, looked up the like reviews on it. And I was like, oh no, this is not a mystery at all. So then I just stopped waiting for people to die.
Yeah, because you do wonder, I mean, like that's the other joke I make is like, I can't always figure out for the most part who's going to die in a cozy because, everybody is so sweet. And then you have the one person that's being hateful and you're like, oh, you're going down. Yeah. So I always make the joke, I can figure out the victim. But that's funny because you're like halfway through the book and you're like, how am I? Because I like my murders to be like my sweet spot for murdering. Sounds weird, is like chapter 3 or 4, because I feel like if it's already happened when the book starts, I can't get behind, not that I want somebody to be murdered anyways, but like, I feel like when I've seen them be mean and ugly, I don't feel as, bad for them as like when I don't know them and they're, I'm supposed to, I don't know. I like when I see a little bit of their character and I'm like, oh, that's why you're being killed. Again, not saying it's condonable, but but if it was halfway through the book, I'd be like, what is going on?
Well, I did. I don't know if you know the author, cozy author, London Levitt. She's one of my favorites, and she's just an awesome person too. But she just came out with this. It's like a romance. It's just sweet romance, like a series. And so I was reading her first in that series. And even though I knew, like, Eryn, it's romance, I was still like analyzing each of the people, like who's going to die. And then I kept having to remind myself, no. It's just a romance. Funny. Nobody's dying.
That's hilarious. Yeah, she was at Ashland too last year.
Yes, I love her.
Yeah, she was great. If I'm 30% in and there's no body, I am side-eyeing and sighing.
Well, okay, so I have to tell you that my goal is always first chapter dead body. I do it pretty quick. There's some that it's like 2 or 3 chapters in, but I usually try and get them in there pretty quick. But I usually do try and also give you reasons why they died. So you have
it doesn't even have to, there's no like, oh, it has to be chapter. It's just, I need to see them be ugly.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm like, oh, it's somebody, I don't know. I fixate on like, I don't know. It's just something. It's a quirk, I guess. Hey, she said, this has been so fun to watch, but I have book club starting. I'll watch the rest after. Thanks for doing this interview. Bye, so before we wrap up, because I know we're coming up to the top of the hour, tell us when your next books are coming out that you have dates for, where we can find you. I know you said your website, but do you have newsletters, Instagram? Like, tell us all about where we can find you. And do you have any upcoming events that you're going to be doing where people can find you as well?
Yeah. Okay. So my website just got revamped and I'm in love with it. So I need all of you to just go look at it because it's so cute. But it's erynscott.com. And there you will find a link to my newsletter. I do a newsletter probably once or twice a month. So just kind of like when I have either a sale or a new release, I don't do a ton of things. So you're not going to get spammed or anything. But so that you'll find links to my newsletter there. And I do have, like I said, the Morrissey series. Book 5 is coming out tomorrow. That one's really fun because in 2022, we had a really big ice storm in Seattle and people were just like sliding all around and like the hills are crazy around here. So I was like, I got to put this in a Morrissey book. So this one, they're kind of iced in to the building.
Love that.
Weekend. And so yeah, that's A Bullet in the Basement. It's coming out tomorrow. And then my next release will be in the Whiskers and Words series as well. And I have it set for February. I might need to push it into March, but we'll see. But around that time. Yeah. And then my new series should be coming out this fall, like I said, this Halloween. And I'll have, hopefully I'll have some. So the gal who did the covers for me in that series is an illustrator, but she also really does cute animations. So I'm going to see, I'm going to kind of release animations of all the covers as well as we go through the pre-order process. So you can, if you follow me on Instagram, that's usually the best. I'm on Facebook as well, but Instagram's usually my favorite place to be. So you'll see kind of the different pre-order. I'm going to do some like incentives for pre-orders in that series. So.
That is so cool. And the website, I love maps in books of like the town and stuff. I'll love that. And I know you said you had like who you pictured or what you picture the characters. I think that is so much fun. That's such a great idea.
It's so fun. Yeah, this is my map for Pebble Cove. I had it on a tea towel.
Oh, so that's cool.
But also in the ebooks, sometimes the maps are really small, and I know you can, enlarge them. But sometimes it's fun to see them on a full computer, so you can. That's where they all are. Yeah,
that's so cool. Yeah. And then, do you have book signings? Do you have any like author?
Yeah, I don't know if it's been officially announced, but I'm definitely going back to Ashland next year. So I know Tiffany's talked about Ashland Mystery Festival, and it was so much fun. So anyone who is on the fence should definitely go. It was a blast. And so, yeah, I'll be there for sure.
That is so exciting. Yeah. I'm so excited for it already. It's going to be it. I don't know how I got from year 1 to year 2, because year 1 was so magical, but last year was just, it was just amazing. If you want to feel like, honest to goodness, you're in a cozy mystery, I cannot stress enough how much to take the time to do that festival once. It's just incredible.
It was, like you said, it was magical. Like, I just felt like everything was fantastic. And I was so happy the whole weekend. Like, everyone was so nice, and it was perfect.
It was a blast. I'm so excited that you're going. Yeah, that you're going to be going. Thank you so much for I don't even know how you have time with writing like 8 books in a year, but I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. Absolutely. This was so cool. And new book tomorrow. And then a new book somewhere in February and March, and then her new series sometime towards fall-ish, which is always I think that's so fun to have like an October-ish.
Yeah, it's a really good cozy mystery time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, everybody, have a great night. Take care. Have a great weekend. And thanks, everybody. Thanks, Eryn.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.